This is the Lianli O11 Vision. We got a bit of a closer look at this earlier in the year at Computex in Taipei in Taiwan, and we spoke to its case's designer and we talked to him about a few of the design choices that were made to make this a very special version of the O11. But as usual with these videos, we're gonna do our own thing. We're gonna take a look at what makes this thing tick, we're gonna rip it apart and test the thermals. But before that, here's a word from today's video sponsor.
This video is brought to you by VIPSCDKey.com. You install Windows and you see the watermark of death. You don't need to fork out a couple $100 for a key. You can grab one from today's video sponsor. From VIPSCDKey.com for a tenth of the price, and you can use our code GEAR to get 25% off. How good's that? That takes that already cheap Windows key and makes it even cheaper. You place your order, bingo bango, you've got your key on your orders page, you chuck that key into the activation screen and you're good to go. No more watermark of death. Use code GEAR for 25% off, link in the description. On with the video.
Did I just say toast to thermals?
Yeah, you did. It's thermals toasting.
Oh, it's stupid, but let's pull it apart. Toast to thermals.
Have a coffee, Nick.
I need one. The O11 Vision is very easy to get into. There's a single captive thumb screw on the rear and there's a tab. We loosen up that thumb screw and we can pull this glass panel away. Be careful with this panel because it's just solid glass and these are very smashy. Removing the top panel is similar. Two captive thumb screws on the rear, loosen those up, and then this panel slides back. But make sure you put your hand underneath the panel here, just in case it drops a little, and then you lift it away. To remove the rear panel, there's a bit of an edge on the panel itself, and you can put your finger in there and just pull the back panel away from the case. To get access to the rear of the case, much like other O11 cases, there is this cable bar here. The difference here is this one's magnetic on a hinge. You can pull this away and we can lift it all the way out. The front panel can be removed, but you don't really need to remove it when you're building because when we look at it this way, we have access to absolutely everything, so there's no real point. But if you wanted to, there's two screws on the top, two on the bottom, and one at the front to pull it off. But for this video, I'm just not gonna do that. This is one of those elephant in the room moments where someone's going to comment something like, oh, Height did the frameless glass panels first. No, actually, whoever invented the fish tank did that first. For power supply support, it supports up to a 220mm long power supply. This has got a nifty little trick up its sleeve as well. What makes this interesting is when we pull the bracket out, there's a gaping hole in the side of the case, and this makes it very easy to put the power supply in without there being anything interrupting it going in, if that makes sense. So there's no support rail here that's gonna make it difficult if you had that problem in the past with cases. The O11 Vision supports two 3.5-inch spinning rush drives with the pretty standard Lianli removable hard drive cage, single thumb screw, and then you just slide them up and you can pull them away. There's nothing groundbreaking about these drive cages. However, you can do 2.5-inch drives in these as well for a total of 5 drives. So 2 3.5-inch drives or 2 2.5-inch drives in these sleds. You can also install 3 2.5-inch drives on this bracket here, which leads us into cable management. Cable management in O11s is typically quite good because you don't look at it. You just jam everything back there and hope for the best and it's gonna be fine. But they have included a bracket here to run cables underneath, as well as Velcro tie downs here in the center of the case. There's a Velcro tie down on the bottom of the case to help manage your cables. And there's a Velcro tie down at the top of the case here. There's also these cable pass-throughs. These are huge rubber grommets. There's rubber grommets along the edge of where your motherboard would typically sit as well. And there's holes here for if you change the offset of the case, and we've got little grommets to block that stuff off as well. I'm not sure if that comes with the case, but we do have grommets. But finally, with cable management, as mentioned with Lianli cases, this is all you need to do, guys, right? Especially with the O11 cases, put the bracket on and never look at it ever again. Don't be so pedantic about cable management, doesn't matter. Everything that you've seen so far is pretty standard O11, but I want to show you what makes this case interesting and unique. Because the O11 Vision is designed to be aesthetic and it has that glass top panel, so we can't mount anything to the top, we need to account for the fact that there's no air going out the top. What Lian decided to do was to allow you to change the offset of the motherboard tray to allow more fans, and I'll show you how this works. There's a bunch of screws along the back edge of the case. So if we pull all of those screws out, you can slowly start to hear the motherboard cage rattling and then this bracket rattling here. So we pull this one out. So remove this screw here. Now becomes loose, and check this out, right? We can push this down, and they've got little pegs that help you align it. So once we move it down, you can already see what's happening here. Put the thumb screws back in. The motherboard has been completely moved down into a new location. Reinstall the plate that was at the bottom at the top of the motherboard tray. And now the motherboard has been moved closer to the bottom because for fan and radiator support on the rear of the case, we can do two 120mm fans. You heard that right. This also allows you to install a 240mm radiator at the back of the case as well. So a lot of the things that you think the top panel takes away, the rear panel gives us back. On the bottom, you can install 3 120mm fans or a 360mm radiator if you're custom liquid cooling, as well as 2 80mm radiators or 2 140mm fans down there as well. The bottom bracket is also removable with 2 screws, and this will allow for easier fan installation. Otherwise, there's no real way to do this. And then we can lift the bracket away from the case. On the side, you can do up to a 360mm radiator, a 280mm radiator, you can do a 240 if you wanted to as well, 2 140mm fans, you can also do 3 120mm fans, but this bracket is also removable to help with installation. There's a thumb screw here, and you would be forgiven for thinking that you would remove this thumb screw, but you don't remove it at all. It's actually a little lever, and you push that down and then you can pull the bracket away from the case. Hey, I see you. You haven't subscribed yet. Click that button right now, otherwise I'm going to stop the video. I also wanted to mention that a lot of people get this wrong, and I see a lot of photos of people's PC builds with side-mounted fans. Always install them as intake, guys. That's the way to do it. That is the correct way to do it. Otherwise, there is no way for the system to pull air in. The bottom is usually blocked by the graphics card, so please always install this as intake, not exhaust. I know it may be pretty to look at your fans being as exhaust, but it's not the right way. For motherboard support, it supports ITX all the way up to EATX, but be aware the maximum EATX width, if you're not going to be using the side fans, which you should be using, is 280mm. And while we're on the topic of motherboard support, for air cooler support, you've got a maximum height of 167mm. For GPU support, you've got a maximum supported length of 455mm. Look at this 4090 Founders Edition. It looks absolutely tiny inside of the O11 Vision. You can also do vertical GPU mounting if that's something you wanted to do as well, using basically any vertical GPU bracket that you wanted. We always get questions about which one we use, but the truth is most of them are compatible with any case you want to use. Just double check that. But yeah, it doesn't really matter which one we use because yeah, they're all the same really. For case wiring, we've got front panel audio, USB 3.2 Type A, USB Type C, and a combined block for all your lights and all your switches. There's a power button with a combined power light. You can see that I don't want to peel it away because this case is a bit of a fingerprint magnet. There's a combined headphone and microphone jack, a USB Type C port, and 2 USB Type A ports on the bottom of the case. There's a single dust filter on the bottom of the case, and it just slides out and you can slide it back in. That's everything I think you need to know about the Lian O11 Vision for now. Let's do the usual thing. Let's build test thermals and do a video on a computer case.
You're already doing that.
Yeah, but they might like this one.
Oh.
Everyone just loves O11s. They
Oh.
don't know why they like them, but they like them.
I mean, they're not bad.
Yeah, they're fine,
They're cool.
but let's find out if it's actually fine. let's take a look at the thermals of the lianli O11 Vision. What you're seeing on your screen right now is the thermals are rather average. Keep in mind that we are using the 14900K and it runs very, very hot. But in comparison to other cases that we've tested with this cooler and this CPU combo, this is the hottest that we've recorded yet with the 14900K. So the thing I thought was most interesting about these thermals is the gap between the different configurations with the panels on and off and the filters in and out are bigger than we see usually. So, hard to come to a conclusion for that, but I think the thermals are pretty average with the O11 Vision. But as I said earlier in the video, this case is really designed to look good, and I kind of predicted that the thermals might be a bit average, but it is what it is, and now we know, we have the answer. And if you're interested in any of the hardware that I use in the build, there's little cards that come on screen through those sections of the video, and there's a PC part pick list down below in the description. All right, the lianli O11 Vision. What do I think about this case? Well, first of all, the building experience is phenomenal. This is one of the easiest cases I've ever built with, and the fact that you can change the height of the motherboard is pretty fantastic. It's also nice because sometimes you want to change the look of your build too to make it feel more filled out, so you can move the motherboard up. The only thing you're sacrificing really with that is being able to put the 2 fans on the back. That's something that I really wanted to explore, which is why I dropped the motherboard and put the 2 fans on the back. Now, I did notice that if you wanted to use a vertical GPU bracket, it would depend on the bracket that you're wanting to use, but if you install fans at the bottom, it might not be quite as easy as you think to get a vertical GPU to mount in here while the motherboard is in the lower position. So I thought that was worth mentioning because there might be people who try to do that and it could potentially be an issue. Other little things that I liked about the case is cable management is excellent because you can't see anything. But other than that, the grommets that I talked about earlier in the video that cover up the holes here above the motherboard, I installed those because I lowered the motherboard and the cabling just looks so clean. And I'm pretty happy with how this PC turned out in terms of overall look, cable management, and the quality of the build. This is one of the nicest builds I've done in a while, and yeah, I just thought this was a nice one to share with you guys in this way. In terms of the build quality of the O11 Vision, classic O11 style, the build quality is phenomenal, but I've got to say, this is the best build quality O11 that I've seen so far, mainly because of that infinite glass kind of look. The little triangle support piece in the corner is a genius idea, so the case doesn't collapse in on itself. But one thing I got to say about the build quality is the top panel's glass is 1 millimeter thinner than the side panel, and to me, it felt like it might break, right? So just be very careful with the top panel. When I pulled off the top panel in that section of the video, I also said, make sure you support the bottom of it as well. And that is also because the glass is quite thin. So, there's a couple things with full fish tank cases that you have to take into account. And in particular, that one is something you do need to be aware of. One bit of feedback I've got for lianli though is this case is a fingerprint magnet. I don't know why companies just can't quite get this right. And some people say, hey, you should build with rubber gloves on or whatever. I shouldn't have to, right? I build a lot of PCs. I like to feel things as I'm doing it. And the fact that you look at this thing the wrong way and it's just gonna have fingerprints everywhere. So, take that into account and keep your case clean. But other than that, I don't really have anything negative to say about the O11 Vision. The thermals are pretty average, but this case is gorgeous. And I think PCMR, well, shout out to you, Pedro. I think you did a good job with helping design this case because the O11 Vision kind of does everything that I think other O11 cases should do, and it looks freaking awesome. I love how this case looks. It's personally not my cup of tea, but when you build in it, it just looks great. I've got to say, like, usually very skeptical about O11 cases, but this one right here is probably one of the O11s that I would use even for a 0 RGB type of build. People are saying, Claire, I saw someone comment, Oh, that's a new toxic meta trait, is 0 RGB, but
What?
I was doing 0 RGB before everyone else.
Just like stuff you like.
Yeah, if you like it, like it. If you don't like it, who cares? But you don't have to tell everyone that you don't like everything all the time.
I don't like everything.
I love nothing. And if you love the music you heard here, I make all the music. It's available by clicking that join button right there down below. And if you want to get yourself a CD key, if you're building a new PC, there's a link to get that stuff cheap down there as well. Shout out to VIP SCD Key for sponsoring this video. They sponsor a lot of our content now here on the channel because we've got a mortgage to pay. So, you know, that's just how it goes these days. Got to be transparent with you guys. All right, I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers. You peek, we seek. There's lots of videos for you to watch, and here's one up here. You should probably watch this one. And I've got to say, while I'm here wasting 20 seconds while this card goes on, you're allowed to like things, guys. You're allowed to do whatever you want. Don't worry about the meta or trends or whatever. Just do whatever you like. Who cares? Enjoy gaming, enjoy PCs, put a smile on your dial, and have some fun in your life. Life isn't that bad.